Welcome on in, take your shoes off, get you some sweet tea or whatever you like to drink, and let's start on this beautiful Valentine topiary. I've got 140-pound cold pressed watercolor paper and some of my favorite watercolors, and the first thing I'm doing is I am going to go ahead and paint in the ribbon that is flowing around the heart. As you see, I'm leaving a little bit of that white of the paper to shine through in some spots so that it looks like highlights. I've got a little bit of cerulean blue here, and that's how I'm just painting in that ribbon, leaving a few little spaces blank, making a little bit darker where it's sort of bunched up to curve around that beautiful topiary. And like I said in one of my last videos, I have been refreshing my home, and I have been really influenced by the Chinoiserie that I keep seeing in everyone's home. I am addicted to Homeworthy, which is a YouTube channel here on YouTube, obviously. And I just love that. It is a chef's kiss for home decor. It's just tours of people's homes, and I love it. So now I've started on the bow. I'm doing the same thing. I am leaving a little bit of the white of the paper where the bow flares out and the light would really catch that wide angle of the bow. Just leaving that white space for the highlight, putting a little bit of extra paint where it would be darker. Now I am just taking a little bit of yellow brown, and I am painting the trunk of my topiary. I used to have a ficus tree, and the ficus trunk was it wasn't braided, it was just twisted around itself. So that was where my inspiration for the trunk came from. So I just really put in the darker edges on that trunk. And now I've got more of a cobalt blue, a deeper blue, and I'm going to do the Chinoiserie design on this jar that my topiary is in. Now this is a made-up design. You could do any kind of design you would like. This isn't really based on anything, so except for my imagination, and I'm just making like little blue swirls and some curves and some flower type shapes and trying to make it all fit together. But what would be a good idea for you could look up some Chinoiserie patterns and just kind of use that as a guide. I didn't. I just jumped in with both feet and said, oh, heck with it. I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and it's just going to be all right. And I ain't worrying about it. And y'all shouldn't worry about it either because, hey, it's called creativity, and you have control of your piece of art, so you make it like you want to. So that's all I'm doing here on the jar is just putting that pattern on, and I'm just making it up as I go. You see, I sort of just sketched out the pattern beforehand, and I'm just kind of painting on it and then maybe putting a few little tweaks to it here and there, making some areas thicker, maybe adding a leaf shape or a flower shape at the end of the swirls, just whatever comes to mind as I'm painting it. And as long as it's just all blue, it'll be fine. When you paint with one color, with a monochromatic color, it just makes things a lot easier. And so I'm not worrying about my pattern. I think it'll come out fine no matter what I do to it, as long as I just don't get way sloppy with it. And you don't even have to, you can use different colors. Like I said, I'm being influenced by the home decor I'm seeing in the different videos I've been watching. So that, of course, is going to influence my art. I get my inspiration from everywhere, nature, art, everyday things, whatever comes across that, kind of piques my interest. Now instead of doing a gold rim on this jar, I'm going to go ahead with the blue rim, and I'm making it darker at the edges, lighter in the center because, of course, it's a rounded a rounded cylinder shape. So the highlight would be more toward the middle because that's where it bows out the most. And speaking of bows, now that my bow is a little bit dry, I'm going with a darker blue, a more concentrated blue with less water, and putting the shadows in. You know how the bow folds over and that has that little inside part, darkening that up so that you can see that is the inside. And just sort of blending it out where it's a little bit too dark. I put a little water on it and dabbed it up, and then I'm just going to redo it a little bit better. And now I'm coming down to my I want to call it a branch, to my trunk, and I'm starting to fill it in with a little bit of burnt sienna, rounding it out, leaving those bulgy parts lighter so that it looks like highlights. And I decided I would make the bottom rim also blue, just like I did the top rim. I'm adding a little bit of extra paint on the outer edges so that it looks darker and that center part looks lighter, like a highlight. Well, it is a highlight, dang it. We know what we're doing. Now I'm just adding a few more shadows to the bow, making sure I've got the middle part of the bow painted in as well. I got a light wash on it, and I'm just putting those shadows how that bow is sort of scrunched up and, has the little middle part. Now I am just taking some rose color. You can use permanent rose, alizarin crimson, whatever color suits you. But since this is Valentine's, I went ahead with a rosy pink color. And I'm just doing simple flowers. Nothing fancy. It's just 4 or 5 petals. And I'm trying to get them at different angles. So, one of the petals may be long and flat that you're looking straight on. And then the other petals sort of stick out from it. That makes it look like a side view. A straight on view, of course, you can see all 5 petals, and I'm just really making them really loose and easy. Nothing hard about this. Like, again, 4 or 5 petals. It's just sort of like little stars almost, and then you can vary the size and shape of the petals so that it looks like you're looking at the petals from different angles, or they're turned at different angles. So I'm going to go ahead and get those pink flowers all around, just sort of spaced out all around my little heart, and I'll be right back. So now I'm just going to put a little soil in the top of the container here. You'll be able to see a little bit of the soil. You can do a green moss if you want. For some reason, I chose to go with soil. But now, in hindsight, I'm wishing I had done like a little beautiful blue-green moss. Would have been really pretty. But I just laid down some of a medium brown, and then I went ahead and, while it was still wet, put in some of that darker brown, making sure I avoided the trunk. I want the trunk to stand out. I didn't cover it at all. And now I'm just going to go ahead and start putting in little tiny leaf shapes. I'm just filling in some of those spaces, starting to fill out my heart shape with some green leaves. And they're just little, like, oval shapes, just little teardrop shapes in some places. It's really up to you. They're just simple shapes. It's nothing to it. And just start filling in those little spaces all around the heart. Once I got all of my little flowers and leaves done, I felt like the blue and pink, it needed another color. So I went ahead and mixed up some gold, and I decided I would do sort of like golden rods maybe, and put those around in some different areas just to give it a little contrast. And it just needed another color. I felt like it needed another color. You could have done lavender or purple flowers. I just happened to pick yellow. I don't know why, but that's just the color I decided on. So I'm just doing like cone shapes. So I'm making it wider at the bottom, just tiny little dots. And then as I go toward the tip, I'm making the tip maybe 1 dot, 2 dots, just so that it looks like a cone shape. And just filling in those areas with that pretty yellow gold. And I think it does sort of bring out the blue and the pink. It's a nice color arrangement, a nice color combo I've got here. It's nice, it's fresh, it looks Valentine-y. And what I'm painting these for is I have a Patreon group, and my top tier are called bundlers. And bundlers get an actual physical gifts from me or goods from me every month, and this is going to be their Valentines. This is going to be their February. I'm making them original paintings of this little Valentine topiary. So if you're interested in getting physical goods every month, then you might want to check out my bundler tier in my Patreon. It's either a print. This is the first time I'm giving them an original, but they are getting an original. Most of the time it's a print and maybe, a bookmark, stickers, things like that. There's different things that they get each month, but they love it. It's like having Christmas every month. They get a little package, and they have all sorts of little sweet things in that package for them. So now I'm just coming in, and in some of those leaves, I'm just putting a little darker shadow in there. And you can do the same thing to the pink flowers. But right now I'm working on the leaves. I'm just going in with a little layer, another layer of green, just a little bit darker to make that have a little bit more contrast. And then, of course, we're going to do the same thing to those pink flowers. We're just going to go ahead and put in a little bit of darker pink. Now I have mixed up sort of a gray color. You could use Payne's gray. I don't have Payne's gray on my palette, so I just mixed up all the red, blue, and yellow together and got sort of a gray color. And I'm just doing the shadows on the jar, on the little planter jar there, and I'm doing those on the edges and around the little handles. It has these two little sort of bulgy handles on each side. And now I just did a little darker version, and that I just used some blue and brown and watered it down a lot, and that is going to be my shadow. And I'm also using that darker color just right on the edges, just to darken that up. And remember, we want the center to be lighter because we want it to look like it's rounded. And I am loving the way this sweet little print, it's not a print, this sweet little Valentine's heart is coming out. And I might make prints for my shop out of it. I don't know, but definitely my bundler tier patrons are getting one that I am painting by hand, so they are getting an original this month. And now I am just darkening in the green even a little bit more. And you see that just really adds some contrast, and it just adds a little extra something to it. I really like it. It also gives it a little more texture because those leaves pop out at you just a little bit more with that dark shadow. And make sure that you do the center of your bow and get that darkened in. I did that already, and I just wanted to, I didn't point it out as I was doing it, to just make sure to pay attention to the center part of your blue bow to make sure that it looks rounded and it has its appropriate shadows on it. And I am just really loving this. This is the first time I've painted something like this. I usually do like, for Valentine's, I'll do like some puppies with hearts or a heart wreath or something like that. But like I said, I am being influenced by home decor, especially this chinoiserie. And so I'm just trying to get that in there. And I think I'm going to paint some of these for myself and add it to my own home decor. But I may do it with red because I have a lot of red transferware. I don't have that blue, chinoiserie. I have more red stuff in my house. I love red. So I might do it to go with my red transferware. So I decided I'd let that dry and put it in a frame just to kind of see how it would look as decor. However, whatever. Don't get your panties in the wad about the way I talk. I just have an accent. But, you know, decor, or in the South, decor. So I'm just framing that with a nice gold frame, and I think it came out so cute and so sweet. And yes, I am going to make some of these for myself and hang them in my house. I think they will be a perfect accent. Thanks for watching, and I will see you soon. Happy painting, guys.